Are billionaires leaving California? Can self-employed people contribute to a 401k? And how is permanent life insurance like eating a Twinkie? You're about to find out. Welcome back to the Personal Finance Club show. Hey, Jen.
What's up, Jeremy?
So there's nothing more topical to talk about now than something that happened 2.5 weeks ago, which was the Super Bowl.
Oh, gosh.
And something...
Bad Bunny.
Yeah, Bad Bunny was the headliner. But someone even more famous potentially was singing during the Super Bowl. And I just learned this like yesterday. It blew my mind. And so it was during a commercial. I was watching the commercials, and this is literally the only commercial that stood out to me during this whole show. There's like a commercial, I think it was 60 seconds of a Backstreet Boys karaoke song that was just like a blank karaoke screen with Backstreet Boys for like a full minute. Like the last 2 seconds, it's like by Coinbase. I just remember like watching this commercial, like what is this company and why are they burning money on this, this ad or whatever. And then, but to their credit, but even though I was like, well, they got our attention because it's like with people doing more and more and more, they were just like had a very simple, just like karaoke with like the song. Mm-hmm. And I have a question, Jen.
Yes.
There was some singing in that song. Do you know who actually performed the karaoke during the Super Bowl karaoke commercial?
Well, I do. It was me.
What? We have literally not talked about this until this moment. You sang during the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's not even my first Super Bowl commercial.
It's not your... What else have you done for this? Okay, first of all, what else have you done for the Super Bowl? And I'm going to come back to this.
Well, the last one was a couple years ago, and I didn't post it because it was a Jesus commercial, and people get weird about Jesus.
Oh, there's a Jesus commercial in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, there's like a company called He Gets Us that in theory just promotes the teachings of Jesus, but they are like funded by Hobby Lobby. So I just got nervous about posting because people would be like, what are their affiliations? But yeah.
Oh, well, good thing that this isn't being recorded, right? Enough time has passed, right?
For all our listeners.
Was that a national spot? Because this Coinbase thing was national.
I mean, it was on, like anybody who's watching the Super Bowl saw it. I think all the commercials are the same for the Super Bowl. I don't think they like make it regional, do they?
No, I do think there are some regional spots because I know they might be, it's like San Diego news after the Super Bowl. I think there's some like that, but I don't know about.
No, that one was everybody. All the people in different states of my friends saw it. Okay. So
that's
yeah,
wild. Okay. And so like, how do you get a gig like this? I don't want to belabor the point, but like singing for in a Super Bowl commercial is crazy. So how do you do that?
Well, short answer is I have been doing music for a very long time, like almost 20 years now, and a lot of different ways. So I've like sung in bands and restaurant gigs and done I write music for film and TV kind of a lot, honestly, and ads. And this company, Walker. So like the through line is I used to sing in a wedding band. The saxophone player in that wedding band, his wife works for this company, Walker. So she knows my voice. So I've been doing stuff for them for like 5 years where it's just like bank ads or something like that. And a lot of times it'll just be like a demo and it won't go through. And then like I've done a couple that have gone through. Like,
and they're like an ad agency that gets hired by
I guess
companies?
They're specifically they're specifically sync. Like, so they sync to ads mostly, but like film and TV. Okay. And she's called me, like we did a Google spot a couple years ago, and like she hasn't called me in like a year. I was like, dang, Dottie forgot about me. And then she was like, hey, this was like 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, which is kind of odd because I feel like a lot of them are probably more pre-planned. And she was like,
it was that recent 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, they're like putting this commercial together.
Yeah, it was like ASAP Backstreet Boys cover needed. And I was like, great, got you. Yeah, I just did it that night.
That's insane. Okay. Yeah. And does this like make you the nation's premier karaoke? Like if like you're the one that gets chosen, I know it's because you knew someone like a history of, and by the way, people ask me the same thing. It's like, how are you so successful? It's like, well, in high school, I started, just like for the test, I got into a good college. I like met people. I worked really hard for years and years and years. And then like, and obviously, and then you get lucky, just like you did, just like
Yeah,
I do too. And so it's
exactly.
not like, oh, of course I was, and you were just in the right place at the right time. You could do it that night, and so there's both. It's like hard work, persistence, and then you
Yeah.
get lucky. But I
Yeah,
think,
also like context is that I studied audio engineering, so I have a home studio. So I mean, I think at this point, half of America has a home studio, like they can record themselves. But to be able to send it to somebody like at
we're doing a podcast right now from my studio.
exactly, like you could literally record vocals for the Super Bowl. But being able to
You
know
know
how
what?
to like actually send files in a coherent way is like something I pride myself on. So that
Nice,
helps too for context. But yeah, yeah.
amazing. Okay, and then I think it was a 60-second spot, at
Hmm.
least the one I saw online was. And from what I saw, Super Bowl commercials were starting at 8 million per 30 seconds.
And they gave
And
me
so
the 16 million. Yes.
and so that was my question is, of the 16 million that they spent on this, there's must that was what they spent to just air it, but they must have spent something on top of that to produce it, including
Yeah,
your fee.
vocals.
How much did you get? And if you
I
want to
got
share it,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not fine. Yeah, I don't care. I got exactly $5,350.
Really? That's a lot of money. I mean, it's not as much as
It's
16
not.
million.
I'm sure there's people who get like SAG like union rates, which would be crazy because some of these Super Bowl commercials run like after the Super Bowl, but this was a buyout, which
Oh.
happens a lot lately. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Wait, so if it's union rate, you get royalties every time it airs or
You get
something?
royalties every time it airs, and then there's just like a union rate for like if it's like a four, like this obviously wouldn't have even gotten a lot in that way because it was very low vocal, but like you get there's just certain like in any union that you join there's rules and laws basically they're like if it plays on this main stage like even the same way like when I've done on TV appearances it's like if you're a background vocalist you get one rate, if you're the lead singer you get another rate, if you're in a
Huh.
choir you get an even lower rate, like
Yeah. Are
so
you
it went.
SAG then? SAG is
Yeah,
Screen Actors Guild for
I'm
you
SAG, but
non.
even when I did TV appearances when I wasn't SAG, they have to pay you SAG rates because you're on
Oh,
TV.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's
Yeah. So I
crazy.
got
Wow.
$350 for like a demo because they were just like, can you do this? And they were like, they have to pay you something to like try. And so
Right.
they gave me like 100 and they were like, we need more revisions. And they gave me 150 and they were like, we'll give you 50 more if you do this. So I did like 3 or 4 rounds. And then they were like, here, it's a buy. They told me from the beginning, like, it's going to be a buyout. It was a vocal buyout, which I do all the time. I do that a lot where it's like, they
Okay.
just pay me a flat fee.
Well, that was incredible. You're so Hollywood. Just randomly singing for the Super Bowl is amazing. I like saw that
Well, it was
TikTok. It's
so
like,
quiet that I was like, am I posting this? And I was like, I'll make it fun.
I mean, like whatever, quiet. Like it's you. That's
I
crazy.
know.
I mean, if it was you like on screen, like singing really loudly, I was like, who is she?
Well, it's funny
But
because like when they sent me the thing, because I never record to picture. So when they sent me the thing, they were like, hey, vocals are really intentionally very quiet. And they sent me the video and I was like, dang, like they can't
yeah,
even show me what the commercial's gonna be. This is so stupid. And I'm like, oh, this is the commercial. Like they sent me
this is
the
the commercial.
karaoke. I
Yeah,
just had no idea. I just thought they were being very secretive because Super Bowl commercials are so highly revered.
right,
So
right.
I
They're
was
like,
like,
we're only going to give you this weird yellow screen with words on it. But I
literally.
mean, but honestly, like I wasn't joking. Like I was like, if you asked me 2 days ago before I knew it was you, can you remember one Super Bowl commercial? It would have been that one, just because it was so different. It was just so blank.
I thought
Um,
that I pissed a lot of people off because I had to sing "Am I so secure" instead of "Am I sexual."
yeah,
People
exactly.
were like, "What the hell is this?" Oh, Coinbase thing! Because apparently the Super Bowl
Even
commercials were bad this year.
oh, I don't know. I was with kids and everything. It's just craziness in my house. So I had trouble watching, but I remember that one. Okay.
That's funny.
Anyway, amazing. Congrats. That's really
Thanks.
cool. Should we like actually talk about this was about personal finance. So we talked about money for like half this,
We
and
talked about
let's
money.
try
You
to bleep
asked
it
me
out.
pointed questions about my finances.
Yeah,
You know what?
I
You know
know.
that I have at least $5,000, right? At least I did. Well, actually, they haven't paid me yet, so I don't have it yet.
Oh, really? Oh God. It's
All
already
right. Should we?
aired.
It's already. Well,
They
listen.
sure wanted
Let's
you to
not.
record that in a rush. They can't
Let's
pay you in a
not get
rush.
into. Let's not get into how long it takes to get paid from music gigs. Oh my god, that's a whole nother
Okay.
podcast. All right, let's get into hot topics.
If that topic wasn't hot enough, we've got an even hotter one. What's today's hot topic, Jen?
Okay, so I have a New York Post Instagram post, which I'm sure is on their website as well. And it says California loses mind boggling $1 trillion in wealth in past month alone. in past month alone over fears of billionaire tax.
Yeah. Dang,
Jeremy,
that's
as an
a
almost
scary.
billionaire, what do you think?
It's an almost billionaire. Jen, I
Six
am
million, 1 billion.
so much closer to zero than I am to a billion. A billion is 1,000 million. I'm at 6. So
Yeah, you're doing
I'm
great.
994 away.
I have 5,000. You
Um,
have 6 million. Potato.
Jen's 5,000 that she's owed
Exactly.
is
It's not even
is
in my
how close
account.
she's, she knows someone who's supposed to pay her 5350. Okay. So this what this is talking about is this California billionaires tax that is going to charge billionaires 5% of how much their net worth is and give it to the state of California. And then there's headlines like this. And when I see this sort of thing, I'm like, okay, New York Post is kind of like well known to be like pretty close in like the tabloid. It's not like really refined journalism. It's kind of like sensational journalism. And man, like Jen cues these up for me, and then I do all the research to talk about it. And this kind of stuff is like kind of annoying because fact checking stuff like this is kind of a game of whack-a-mole, because it's really easy to like say something crazy and then put it out there, and then to like unwind what they're talking about and like give all the context and the truth behind the matter is very, very difficult and not very sexy. And by the time the truth tellers are out there unwinding this, the sensationalist tabloid, whether it's actual tabloids like New York Post or whether it's just, shit posters on TikTok or whatever, they've said 1650 or 56 other things. And so that's just why this misinformation travels so much faster than the information. But let's go out on the rabbit hole together. So I was like, okay, California loses $1 trillion in wealth in past month alone over the billionaire tax. What does that mean? I click on it. I go to the article on the New York Post website. If you actually read the first line of the article, it says, according to one of the state's wealthiest residents. So this isn't like some deep research. This is like according to some rich dude who lives in California. I click on that. It goes to a tweet that some dude made, and it's by Chamath Palihapitiya. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. I don't know this person.
Listening.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure he's really listening. But and he's like an actual legitimate like rich guy, and he has a tweet that basically says $700 billion has left California. Okay, so first of all, his tweet says 700 billion. The headline says $1 trillion. So New York Post already just As what's $300 billion between friends, Jen? Right? Imagine how many $5,000 Backstreet Boys covers we could record for $300 billion. You would be hoarse after that.
Yeah.
You'd be hoarse. You'd be. We should do the math on that. Hold on, pause. I'll do the math on that real quick. All right. Back, just do the math. So with the $300 billion the New York Post just deleted, we could pay Jen $5,000 a minute to sing Backstreet Boys covers, no breaks, no sleeping, nonstop, $5,000 a minute for 114 years. That's how much. So $300 billion is a lot of money. They just missed, and then that they just ignored, right? And then Chamath's tweet that said 700 billion, that's actually referencing another tweet from some other Twitter guy, and that's referencing, actually, we get down to the bottom of the rabbit hole. It actually is referencing a New York Times article, which is which is legitimate, and it talks about Sergey Brin, who's moving LLCs out of California, some of them, and it's one of those things like, and it does to be fair, it does talk about this wealth tax. And it's saying maybe some people are moving out of California. Not sure yet. It's still up in the air. And is that headline true? California loses a mind-boggling $1 trillion of wealth. No, first of all, it's not at all true. That's $700 or 700 billion that the tweet was about. Even that's making these vast generalizing, sweeping statements, which is Sergey Brin moved some LLCs out of California, but he himself didn't move. Therefore, every single ounce of his net worth is moving out of California. That's not true, and it's probably not true for the rest of it too. So it's like, you pull all these strings to get this headline. It's not all true, but like with all scams and misinformation, there's always like a nugget of truth. And the nugget of truth is there is a ballot initiative for this billionaire tax in California. Where are we at with it? Right now, it's collecting signatures. After it collects signatures, it needs to go to the ballot in November, and that needs to get voted on. And then if that passes, then it becomes law. And so this whole, billionaire flight thing is like very premature. It's not even happening. Are billionaires thinking, okay, this might happen in the future, so I should leave now? Maybe, but even that I see very little evidence of. Okay, but that's the whole pull the strings on this misinformation stuff. What's really going on here? I think it's worth talking about this billionaire tax because it's a little bit interesting and it is setting off some warning bells because unlike most wealth taxes in the US, most taxes are taxing income. So if I am a highly paid doctor and I make $500,000 a year, based on an income that it's paid from another entity to me, that's when the tax happens. But a lot of wealthy people don't even really have much income. They just own stuff. So, for example, we talked about Elon Musk a few episodes ago. He owns a ton of Tesla stock, among other stuff. His Tesla stock goes up and up and up in value. So he is worth more and more and more, but none of it's income because he's not selling it, usually, and realizing income. So it's just what something's worth. And basically what this tax is proposing is saying, hey, instead of taxing income that's actually changing hands, let's tax current value of net worth. And that's freaking some people out because they're saying, hey, if it's unrealized, if I haven't actually sold it yet, and if I don't actually have the cash, I don't even have the cash to pay the tax on it. I just have this thing that's potentially worth some money. And there are some kind of very outrageous examples being given saying, hey, what if grandma lives in a house and, she bought a little house in this dusty little town in California back in the 80s for $75,000 and now it's worth $800,000. And they're saying, hey, grandma, give me $200,000. And she doesn't have $200,000. She just lives in the home that she's lived in for 40 years. And in order to give the $200,000, grandma would have to sell her home and move to, downsize in order to pay that, right? And that's not fair because you're taxing this unrealized gain. That's, kind of true in that grandma is sitting on an unrealized gain. But of course, this ballot initiative is only asking the tax on people with a net worth of over $1 billion, not grandma's home, of course. And it's giving this kind of unrealistic example of saying, okay, all your wealth is tied up in your home, not in much more liquid assets like stocks, which can be sold to pay the tax. So to recap, it's a ballot initiative. It's not true. It's not happening. It would need to be approved by the voters. It's based on the residence of the person as of January 1st, 26. So it's actually, I think the reason that this is in headlines right now is because at the very end of 2025, there was a little bit of scrambling of these LLCs or whatever to maybe try and move some wealth outside of the state. I don't know, but it's based on their residence. And I haven't seen anything about people physically moving in the end of 2025 yet. So is this thing good? Well, there's really two ways to look at it. If you're in favor of the wealth tax, you would say things like, hey, billionaires aren't even getting taxed at all, largely because they don't have income. They just have these assets that go up and up and up in value. And then if they want to spend the income, they could do this trick where they borrow money. They go take a loan from the bank, which is untaxed because loans are never taxed, with their assets as backing, spend that. And then when they die, their heirs will appreciate a step up in basis, basically never ever paying tax. They could basically live on this bubble of assets forever, never ever pay tax on it. And this is saying, hey, that's not fair because all of us regular people who make income, who go work for a living instead of just own things for a living, we're paying tax. How come you're not paying tax? And there's lots of, largely regressive taxes in America. For example, sales tax. If you're making $50,000 a year, you spend almost all of your money. You have to survive. Where billionaires spend virtually none of their money. And so, poor people are getting taxed more as a percent of their income because they have to pay sales tax. And there's other taxes like that too. Whereas this is a progressive tax where it's like, okay, only people who have a net worth of over $1 billion are getting impacted by this. And we're trying to do something to address the I'm never paying taxes, it never gets treated as income situation. That's the pro argument. The con argument is saying, hey, this is unrealized gains. And if you tax unrealized gains, it's the slippery slope to grandma's home that she's going to have to kick grandma out of her home. I hate slippery slope arguments because you could say, hey, if 16-year-olds get a driver's license, why not give babies a driver's license? We need to draw a line somewhere. That's what laws do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could also make the argument that says, hey, if California introduces this, then it's going to disincentivize billionaires from living here or moving here or staying here, thus hurting other revenues. Because while billionaires might have this large unrealized gain, they also probably have lots of taxable things like large expensive homes they pay property tax on, and they probably have some income too. And there's probably a lot of billionaires who are paying taxes, and so if we push them out of the state, that could hurt our tax revenue in an ongoing basis, even if we get them for 5% of their net worth now. So I'm not going to make an official recommendation on this. It's not even on the ballot yet. I do think it's interesting, and I do think that those problems of unrealized gains and people, billionaires getting more and more and more and more wealthy without it ever being taxed is probably an imbalance and unfairness in our tax code. Is this the perfect solution? I don't know, but I do think that the New York Post topic is a little hot, a little bit of a hot topic.
I'd say. All right, I'll stay in California for now.
Jen, unless you sing, what was it, for 114 years nonstop, no breaks, and get to your billionaire status, I think
I'll stick
you
around.
and I are probably fairly safe from this for now. But the slippery slope people are out in full force in this. They say, hey, billionaires are just going to find offshore loopholes, and then they're coming for you. And the other thing I'll mention about this is I'm actually not really a big fan of ballot initiatives in general, because it just feels like a way for special interests to push, go around our legislative system. And we already have a representative democracy in that we vote for people who we think are going to vote in our interest, and they go and do the very complex job of figuring out all the implications and writing the laws and fixing them. And of course, it's not perfect. We all know that like Congress sucks and everything, but that's their job. When you just go and do a ballot initiative, you're basically routing around that and then putting the onus on the voter to try to decipher these crazy things. And a lot of times I see these ballot initiatives, like, I'm going to make one up that's like, it's kind of true but from memory, but it's the like anti-human trafficking ballot initiative saying, hey, we should stop human sex trafficking and the abuse of minors. And yeah, that sounds good. Of course that sounds good. So voters all rush to vote yes for that. But then you think about it, you're like, wait, isn't that already illegal? Why aren't our legislators making abuse of minors illegal? And the answer is it isn't illegal. And they're doing something else with this because it's like some special interest that's trying to like push like,
Are these all
we're
these
gonna
like
call
props and stuff?
Yeah, it's all the props. And if you're not in California, you might not even know what we're talking about, because in Michigan, we don't have this. But in California, all the proposals, which is what this is, you might see, in November, Jen, when we're voting, we might see California Prop 16 or whatever the number is going to be. That's going to say tax billionaires 5%, and then we're going to have to vote yes or no on that. But then the onus is on us to figure out all the nuance of it in like the few minutes of our free time we have to dedicate to each of these propositions and voting. Whereas the people who we pay to go to Sacramento at the state capitol and do this with their whole lives, like, make them decide, right? And so that's why I don't love these propositions. And so I have a friend who just says, I vote no on everything because I don't believe in the proposition system at all. I think our legislators should be doing that. And because it just does seem like a way for special interests to go, power through, they pay a bunch of people to sit in front of grocery stores and collect signatures. Hey, do you want to reduce the abuse of children? Sign our petition. They do, and it gets pushed through. And then what really happens is some big company gets a tax break or whatever it is. So I don't love the proposition system in California, but then what it comes down to is propaganda, like this post saying, there's this like wealth exodus, and like, is that true? I don't know, but I'd rather our legislators do that work.
All right, so you and I will stick around for now. In the meantime, we will go on to our next segment. Money. Can I ask a dumb one?
The segment where we ask smart questions to dumb people. Okay. What's our question today?
Our question is from Mike in Southern California. I wonder where. Mike kind of applied pressure because he said, this is somewhat time sensitive. I said, Mike, you know what? I got you.
Really?
He's like, I need
Like,
some financial advice. I was like, you know what? Yeah, the worst
Jen
I
is
can do
doing
is say
emergency Super Bowl commercials. I need
no.
I need an answer in podcast response form immediately.
Now my inbox is gonna blow up. They're like, "What about my question?" No, we don't have that many. Okay, so let me read Mike in Southern California's question. He said, I've always had a traditional job, so the usual advice of maxing out a 401k has been appropriate for me. However, I married someone who has been self-employed her whole life and hasn't ever looked into what she could or should be doing beyond just putting money in a savings account. Should my wife be looking into a solo 401k, SEP IRA, something else? And can she contribute any of her savings from prior year's income into these accounts? Or would she only be able to start contributing income for the current year and future years? Any other general advice for self-employed people who don't have the one-click option to save for retirement through employer payroll?
Okay. So Mike's basically asking, hey, for employed people, when you get your job, when Jen got her job at Personal Finance Club, we presented her with her 401k. It's basically like a click, click, click. And then from payroll, money goes into the 401k and it's invested reasonably and it grows over time. How great. But for self-employed people, you don't have like an HR department that basically tees it up for you. And so what do? And in fact, self-employed people don't even have a 401k at all. And so what do? And so first of all, I've basically been self-employed or entrepreneur my entire life, my entire adult life, save for 2 years where I had a regular W-2 job. And so I love the self-employed. I feel like I'm Trump saying.
That got like weird a little bit.
I love the what does he say? The uneducated.
Oh my God, is that what he says? I can't keep up.
Yeah, there's like a famous quote of him saying, "I love the uneducated,"
Oh my God,
or something like that.
You're like, that tracks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of hot topics.
So first of all, to break down your question, what she's been doing is putting money into a savings account. There's kind of two main issues here. The first big one is she's saving, not investing. Saving is just putting cash in a pile, piling up cash. That's a huge problem because that cash isn't growing. Relative to the cost of inflation, it's actually losing value every year. And so like we talk about all the time, the big takeaway from this is that money should be getting invested. Buying things, stocks and bonds, index funds, the stuff we talk about all the time. Okay, if all she did was open up a regular old taxable brokerage account, by the way, the savings account that she's in is a taxable savings account, so don't get freaked out by the word taxable because she's already paying tax on the growth that's already happening. The problem is it's just not growing very much. And so if she just, instead of had it being a savings account, had it be in an investment account, there is unlimited, in a regular old brokerage account, there's unlimited contribution limits. You can take it out whenever you want. There's none of this fear that's associated with these fancy tax advantage accounts. And so she could, and you even ask, can she be doing prior years savings? She could, I don't know your numbers, but let's say she saved $100,000 over the years. She could take $100,000 tomorrow, put it into a brokerage account, click buy in an index fund, and then it's all invested. Boom, problem solved. That's the big issue here, saving versus investing. The more nuanced issue, Jen, what do we need?
Oh my God, I have no idea.
We need the nuance cannon.
Oh God.
It's Jen's least favorite running joke on the show. We need the nuance ticker tape parade. We need the nuance, the nuance slide whistle. Oh, the nuance marching band. Oh, we have a whole nuance marching band. How great.
We've expanded since last
time. This is a Super Bowl airing karaoke singer here. Just singing marching band live on our PFC, live on the PFC podcast. Okay, so the big issue is she's been saving, not investing. That should be addressed. The more nuanced issue is, okay, now that you're investing, can you do better than a taxable brokerage account? And the answer is, yeah, it's more nuanced. It's like the nuanced marching band because you could be saving some taxes, but that's not the huge issue. So let's talk about first. You could always do a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA, you can contribute in 2026. You can contribute up to $7,500, but there are income limits. So you're married. Your married income limit is, I think, $242,000, or if you're single, it's $153,000. So basically, if you make more money than that, then you get into this. Okay, you're not really allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA. You could do a backdoor Roth IRA. I'm not going to talk about that now because we got to end this podcast at some
And
point.
we've done
But
it before. We have talked
we've
about
done
it.
it before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's option 1, Roth IRA. Option number 2, SEP IRA. That means self-employed pension. I think that's what it stands for. With a
Okay.
SEP IRA, instead of $7,500 you can contribute up to 25% of your net business income. That means basically 25% of your profit. So, for example, if your business brings in $200,000, 25% of that is $50,000, and you can contribute $50,000 to a SEP IRA. $50,000 for those keeping track at home is way more than $7,500, and the SEP has a limit of $72,000. So if 25% of your business's profit is more than $72,000, you're still capped. But $72,000, again, for those keeping track at home, is way more than $7,500. So these self-employed business retirement accounts actually have really great contribution limits. But they do get sticky if you have employees. So with the SEP IRA, if you're doing it and then you also have employees, you have to open one for them too and contribute the same percent of their income into their SEP IRA. So
that stinks.
Yeah, well, it doesn't stink for the employee, Jen. Okay, you have that protection too because you got a 401k just like I do. Yeah. So, and I think what the IRS is trying to do here is they don't want this to be a big loophole for rich people to step on the throats of their employees. They're saying, okay, hey, if you're truly self-employed by yourself, go nuts. If you have employees, you got to include them too to help them on this journey of investing. There's also, like you mentioned, a solo 401k. Solo 401k, you can also contribute up to 25% of your profits, or you can contribute up to $23,500, which is the same as the 401k limit. And so basically, this is even more flexible. For example, let's say you only have $40,000 in profit. With a SEP IRA, you can only do 25% of that, $10,000. With a solo 401k, you can do $23,500. So you can actually do more than that. And there's still a limit on both of those things, which is however you're contributing, it can't be more than $72,000 per year. So it's the same limit as the SEP IRA. So basically, the solo 401k is even a little bit more flexible because it allows you to make larger contributions on lower income. For your situation, Mike in SoCal, our neighbor, he's probably within an hour of one of us because I'm in San Diego and you're in LA.
Hang out, Mike.
Yeah, let's hang out. Why don't you ask this question in person? You got to just demand an instant podcast response. But Mike in SoCal, if your wife has a lot of cash sitting there, what you might be able to do is say, hey, we're just going to live off the cash for a while and then put almost all of your income as much as we can into these tax advantage accounts. I do that a lot where, I'm kind of doing it right now where almost all of my PFC income is going right into our 401k and I'm living off of cash. I'm living off of my investments from years prior. And that's something that you might consider doing. So again, big picture, gotta recognize and respect the difference between saving and investing. If all you ever did was instead of putting into a savings account, you put into a investment account, bought a 3-fund portfolio of a US stock index fund, international stock index fund, and bond index fund, you'd be doing great. If you tried to prioritize a tax advantage account like a solo 401k, that'd be even better because you'd save some on taxes. And solo 401ks will let you do either a traditional contribution or a Roth contribution. And to open one of those is really easy. You go to fidelity.com and click open on the 401 or the solo 401k option. It's kind of just an account, just like a Roth IRA is. And it's like scary for the first 20 minutes you're looking at it, and then it becomes easy after that. If you have employees, this gets stickier for all these situations. And so I basically say, if you're a small business with even a few employees, then I would just say, hey, go do a regular 401k. That's what I do with Nectarine. That's what we do here at PFC. And my advice is to use a company called Guideline, which is available at guideline.com. And again, none of these are sponsored, sadly. Sponsor us Fidelity, sponsor us Guideline. Actually, I've never done a investment sponsorship at all because I don't want my advice to be biased. But that's what we use at Nectarine because it works really, really well. It's really, really easy. And in terms of all the logistical stuff small businesses need to organize, it ends up being pretty easy to run your 401k. I wouldn't use Vanguard, by the way. That's what we use. I normally always recommend Vanguard, but for your small business 401k, it's a hairy mess. Their interface is just awful. And Jen is looking a little bit shell-shocked and nodding because I get these cryptic emails from Vanguard and I forward them to Jen. I'm like, can you deal with this? I don't want to deal with this. Then Jen has to have it ruin her life for a few hours instead of mine.
They know too. They're so nice on the phone. They're like, "Yeah, we got you. What do you need?" Like, we know our interface is trash.
Yeah, that's a good thing about Vanguard and Fidelity is you can usually call them and talk to like a really reasonable person.
Great customer service. I will give them that.
Okay, which is very very 1970s of them because I just call them. Like
yeah, just give us a call.
the internet's been invented in the last 50 years, and like this stuff can be automated, so we don't even have to talk. But that's not how they do things. And, speaking of Nectarine, shout out, if this is you, go grab an hour with a Nectarine advisor. You can filter by small business and you're going to talk to an expert who actually, has deep knowledge about this stuff. This part is sponsored, by the way, because I'm a co-owner of Nectarine, as our disclaimer says at the end of every show. So I obviously have an incentive there. But fun fact, I've never made a penny from Nectarine. I haven't had a single dollar of income from it. So am I biased? I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm an owner, so I hope and expect to have value from it one day, hopefully, but you never know. So yeah, there's your answer is make sure she's investing and, don't tell your wife to do anything. I would, learn with her and talk about it and come to an understanding because you kind of don't want to make someone do something that they don't feel comfortable doing or don't understand doing. But I think it's worth sitting down and especially if she's curious and figuring out the difference between saving and investing. And then, go open up a solo 401k with Fidelity and throw some money in there and live off the savings if there's plenty of it.
All right, SoCal Mike and wife and co. I hope that helped and hope it was in time. I mean, I guess you could do all this at any time.
I think maybe he was talking about like there's a tax deadline and for Roth IRAs, you can contribute to the 2025 IRA before the tax deadline. But I'm almost certain that isn't true for any sort of 401k, solo or otherwise. And so, Mike, there's no rush. You can definitely start contributing for 2026. But I think the 2025 solo 401k the ship has sailed for that contribution limit. But like I said, it's up to $72,000, which is a lot of money. And of course, you still have the brokerage account option, which is unlimited. So there's no panic to do anything quickly. I would just make sure you and your wife are like comfortable and informed about what you're doing and make a plan moving forward.
Period. All right, let's go on to our next segment. Scroll Patrol.
Scroll Patrol.
All right, I have a video that Jeremy hasn't seen. He's going to watch it in real time and review it. This is a short one. And I do have a caption from Twitter in case we need context. So hopefully this makes sense to you. But go ahead and click on that video, Jeremy.
All right. I'm already looking at the screenshot. It says, or the first image, it says, this is what a salary of $1 million looks like after taxes in California. Gross income, $1 million. Federal tax, $321K. State tax, $103K. Social Security, $10K. Medicare, $21,700. State disability, $12,000. Total tax, $468. Net income, $531,000. Tax rate, 46.9%. That was like a lot of background noise.
It was a lot of noises. I'm like, where are you driving, girl?
Is she actually like? What is all that noise? We gotta turn the volume of that clip down.
You don't even need volume for that one. You could just play it.
No, you don't. This did not need to be a video. So this is just a video of a woman sitting in a car wearing sunglasses. She does not appear to be driving. I don't see a background moving or anything. And then it just has this overlay of your income is $1 million. It goes through all these taxes, and then your net income is a little over half of that. She's looking very kind of angry. How would you describe her appearance?
And she doesn't look. She's happy that she lost half of her million, if that's even her story.
Is this her? I don't want to see some receipts if this is her income, but I recognize that seatbelt. That's a Toyota Corolla seatbelt.
I can't do it. You could be a millionaire with a Toyota Corolla, Jeremy.
No, most are.
Thank you. What does Warren Buffett drive?
I assume people drive him. I don't know, but he's not a millionaire. He's a billionaire.
Billionaire. So yeah.
All right. So I don't know. She looks very upset. So I think the implication is like, how sad. But you know, you still have $531,000 post tax to spend, which is about what 40,000 something a month that you can
Hmm.
spend. That's a lot of money. You know, $40,000 a month to spend, more than that, 45,000, whatever it works out to, is a lot of money to spend. And like I said, there are lots of regressive taxes in the US. And she actually highlights one. By the way, these numbers all look correct to me.
Oh
Like
yeah,
this does
I was
not seem
gonna
to be,
ask. Yeah.
yeah, this does not, in fact, I think you actually can get to a point where I think she might have left one out actually.
Really?
I think there's like another 2.9% tax
Dang.
on high income. So I think you actually can get to a point where you're over 50% total
So the
tax
millionaires
rate.
are being robbed. You guys are right.
But of note, you know, of your $1 million, only $10,000 goes into Social Security, and that's like that she puts around there, and so that's about 1% of a tax rate. Whereas if you're a self-employed person like Mike's SoCal wife, um, who is, let's say, making $100,000, instead of putting 1% of your tax into Social Security and you're self-employed, you're putting about, I think it's like 14% between Social Security and Medicare.
Mm.
So of Mike's wife's 100,000 of income, I don't know what Mike's wife makes, but I'm just using that as an example. She
Hmm.
could actually be paying the same as someone who's making $1 million, because Social Security and Medicare, or Social Security stops after, I think, like 100 and something $1,000 of income. And then there's 0% tax rate above that. So it's hugely regressive.
Mm.
And that blows my mind, because Social Security is like the number one biggest expense of the federal government.
Mm.
Paying for old people, paying all the old people out is our biggest expense. And that expense is entirely burdened on the middle class. If you make $1 billion, you still pay the same $10,000 into Social Security as that you do if you make $100,000. And so it's hugely regressive. And, you might be thinking, well, the billionaire doesn't need, the billionaire is just one person who gets their Social Security back, just like the $100,000 person is. That's true. But are we like, is the federal government spending a la carte now? We get to pick and choose what we spend money on. Like, I don't feel like I'm benefiting from many federal government programs. Why am I paying into them? And maybe I'm benefiting disproportionately from others. Why are other people's paying into those? Right. And so I don't get why the biggest expense, it's crazy. It literally is crazy, but it just, the reason this is getting very political, but the reason this is still this way is because billionaires don't want this to change. Billionaires really love regressive taxes because they get a 0% tax rate on anything over $100,000. And so, to respond to this person, and also this implication is the $1 million is all income. It turns out wealthy people generally start to own lots of assets. So, for example, my income these days is really low, like under $100,000 of W-2 income. Like it's like $66,000 of W-2 income is what I like make in a year. But I have capital gains because I have $6 million of investments. And if those go up by 10%, that's $600,000 that I'm getting. That's not income. It's just wealth growing. And if it's unrealized, I just get to become wealthier and wealthier and wealthier without paying any tax. And if I sell my assets, then I have to pay capital gains tax, which is lower, much lower. It's only 15%. And so I feel like this is supposed to be some dramatic, look how hard rich people have it type video.
Hmm.
And my answer is like, first of all, $531,000 is like $45,000 a month of income that you can spend, which is pretty darn good. I would much rather be in that situation than in like the $3,000 a month income, making less than 10% of that, like the median household. So you're still doing pretty darn good. And this is kind of like a little bit of a exaggerated example where 100% of your income is like earned W-2 income, not assets creating wealth like most millionaires are. And so, strangely, it's a perfectly accurate video. I don't, I don't even need to look it up. I think all the numbers look exactly right from what I'm seeing. Social Security is about 10%, Medicare is about 2.1%, disability like all this is right. So their effective tax rate is 46.9%, which sounds like a big number, and it is. But you're making $1 million. I'd much rather have 40% of $1 million than 100% of 50,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the progressive nature of our tax system, I think, is the right way to go, in my opinion. So in terms of accuracy, what do I give this? I'd say it's accurate, which is fine, but I feel like it's like implying something based on the scowl on her face. So I don't know. I give it like a B because I don't I don't really know what the point is other than someone scowling their car and posting like this example. Did this get a lot of likes, Jen? Did something this low effort and stupid get a lot of likes?
Let's see what we're working with here. She got 3,000 comments on Twitter, 2,000 reposts, and 15,000 likes. Comments don't really mean anything on Twitter nowadays, though, because people are like spamming. But the first one has a cuss word in it, so I'll bleep. You're right. It's bleeping nuts that you pay that little to Social Security. So that was like, poor baby.
Oh, okay. So they're saying what I'm saying, which is,
they're kind of
you make $1 million.
Poor baby, only $500,000 a year. How will she survive? Is she crying about having $500,000 after paying her fair share? So they're kind of on your team.
Yeah, that's usually how Twitter goes, though. It's like
then we have this one guy literally doing anything in America, the government. So we do have some people who are like on her side, who are like, they're taking too much.
I can't even see that. Your internet's too bad. Describe the picture to our car listeners.
Oh, car listeners, it's a man in an old-timey photo, and he has his hand out, and he is like, give me, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot my video. What are you looking at, pixels all the time we talk?
Yeah, pixels.
Wow, so sad. You can't even see my beauty.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's like an impression of Jen.
We did meet in person, so you know what I look like. So there's proof of life.
For what it's worth, I do think California has high taxes, and when we're talking about this billionaire tax, I think it's definitely worth being reflective as citizens, saying, "Hey, is taxing more and more and more and more the answer?" And it's a little bit of a slippery slope thing to say that, because if you go back into like the 50s, the top marginal tax rate wasn't like 39% like it is today. It was like over 90%. Mm-hmm. And so if you were making $10 million, you'd be giving $9 million to the federal government,
what?
More, something like that. I know, pretty crazy, right? And back then the thought was, you still have $1 million,
when
but
was
then
this?
the people this was like back in the 50s.
Oh.
I know. It's crazy to think that was, this kind of like, I think conservative folk can look back in our, maybe less woke time and say, weren't things great back then? But I'm like, dude, we had a 90% marginal tax rate back then. I think it was like 93% or something.
Wow.
All right, pause. I'm going to fact check myself. Okay, I fact checked myself. I was wrong. It wasn't 90%. It was 94%.
Damn.
I said 9, and it was in the 50s. It was in the mid 40s, and it was in response to World War II. And so and rates remained above 90% until 1963. Okay, wait, I retract that. I was wrong. I was right. It was mostly in the 50s, but it was from the 40s to the 60s. Marginal tax rate was over 90%, Jen. And so, and wealth inequality was less back then. And I think the conservative folk would say, how wasn't the country great back then?
Let's make America great again.
I know. Oh, that's a catchy headline. That's a catchy little phrase. Is anyone using that?
It's just off the top of the dome.
Yeah. Should we maybe have that be our new tagline for personal?
Remember the 3 rules.
Yeah.
That's really an option. Live below your means and make America great again.
Okay. Before let's just look into make sure that's not like infringing on any trademarks or anything.
Yeah, let's check the trademarks.
Yeah. But anyway, I give it a B because I do think that is actually very correct, accurate numbers. But in terms of who else are we going to tax, I think taxing people making $1 million a year is probably a decent place to start. I think there's lots of inequalities in our tax code, like unrealized gains and capital gains are taxed not at all or much lower. Uh-huh. But I still think we should hold our legislators' feet to the fire in terms of being judicious with our money, and spending more and more and more obviously isn't good either. And so look at, okay, why we already have high taxes relative to other states. What's the difference? What can we do about it? And I don't know, Jen, write your senators. I can't solve all our problems in one podcast episode. This is already a long one.
You're doing great. Okay, let's get into our last segment. Jeremy had time today.
I had time today. You guys
Okay.
yell at me in the comments, and I yell back at you at the podcast where you can't defend yourself, which is just
No
how I like it.
one's yelling. Okay. So in this video, you recently discovered a content creator named Jonathan. He helps people get their money back from life insurance scams. So in this video, you're talking about one of your favorite topics, permanent life insurance. I know you love it. And you play a clip from one of Jonathan's calls to show how wild some of these policies can be. So is there anything you want to add before we see what the comment section has to say?
Well, yeah, let's actually play a quick clip of his videos and just to set the stage, he literally does a 3-way call with a consumer, a person, a regular old person like a teacher or something who bought a permanent life insurance policy. Then he calls their life insurance company and he asks them questions like, how much did this person pay in? What's their cash value? How much can they take a loan out against it, and how much can they get out of it right now? And then goes back to the consumer and said, did you know that? And it basically, because there's this, so let's play that clip now, and then we're going to talk about the comment and talk about the video.
What kind of life insurance policy does Brianna have?
This is an index universal life insurance policy.
What's her monthly payment and how much total has she put into the policy so far?
The monthly premium on this policy is $821.55 a month. The total amount she's put into this policy is $49,293.
If she had an emergency today, how much is available for loan?
$8,274.42.
Okay, so let me get this straight. She's had this policy for 5 years, has put over $49,000 into this policy, and if she had an emergency today, she only has a little over $8,000. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct.
Brianna, were you aware of that?
Hold on, let me get this straight. I'm like shaky right now. So you're telling me that out of the $49,000 that I've put in, only $8,000 is available?
Yes, ma'am.
Like, am I hearing something wrong, or is that what you're telling me?
No, that is correct.
So that was Jonathan calling the insurance companies. What did this commenter say about that?
Okay, this commenter says, wait, so there's no benefit to the value of dying and your family being paid out, plus the added value of being able to have cash value in certain cases? It's not a scam, just not being explained very well, neither by you because there are no benefits to life insurance. The grammar was a little wild, but...
Yeah, that last sentence, I feel like...
I'm like, was there supposed to be more?
I think an entire word right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this person's saying, hey, that's not fair, even though we're literally listening in on this phone call of this consumer being like, I didn't understand what I bought because it was missold to me.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's saying, wait, so there's no benefit to the value of dying and your family being paid out? So added value of cash benefit? And so, first of all, every time I see a comment like this, I click through to their profile, and like 9 times out of 10, it's an insurance salesman that clearly selling insurance from their social media account.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one time, I think it's like an undercover insurance salesman or someone who does it as a side hustle, or that's their other account, or maybe it's someone who like misunderstands this stuff. But I literally live in these two worlds. One world where the insurance companies are saying, hey, look over here. Your family gets this death benefit and you get cash value, you get all this money. And then I try to like turn my head over to the left where all their customers are sitting, and then they push my chin like, no, don't look over there. Look over here. What we're pointing at. Look how beautiful it is. Look how beautiful it is. I'm like, no, but look, those people actually bought it. What are they? No, don't look at them. And so Jonathan is like, I love what he does because he like gets on the phone and he has these worlds collide. He's like, hey, how much money did you pay in? $40,000. What's it worth today? $10,000. Did you know that? No. How is this possible? A thing that can't lose money lost 75% of its value so far, And so this commenter, I always say there's always a hint of truth to all good scams. And this commenter has a hint of truth. Isn't there a benefit to your family being paid out when you die? Yeah, of course there is. Isn't it nice to have cash value? Of course. But he literally says, wait, so there's no benefit to the value of dying? And so what he's doing is this false equivalency. He's saying, hey, you can have cash value life insurance or you can have nothing. Isn't cash value life insurance better than nothing? And that's like saying, hey, my 4-year-old has eaten nothing but Twinkies for the last week. That's not very healthy. And then my 4-year-old saying, would you rather I starve to death and eat nothing? Isn't a Twinkie better than nothing? And I'm like, well, that's not what I'm proposing here. I'm not proposing you eat nothing. I'm proposing you eat something healthier. And so this person's trying to shove Twinkies down my throat. I'm saying, hey, I'm not saying Twinkies have no nutritional value. I'm saying that's not a healthy thing to eat. We should eat something else. And in this case, basically what they're saying is, wouldn't you want your family to be paid out? Sure, if they need to be. I don't, the purpose of me dying isn't to have a windfall. For example, if I die today and my family has to get by with $6 million, they'll be fine. Turns out I actually do have life insurance, but I have term life insurance, which means while my kids are young and my, wife will have an undue financial burden while the kids are young, there's another $1 million. So I literally have a spreadsheet that says, this is what Jeremy's worth alive, 6. This is what Jeremy's worth dead, 7. And so there's another $1 million, but it's really cheap. It's $50 a month, and then it expires. And when it expires and I get nothing out of it, hopefully because I'm still alive, great, because then my investments will have grown and they'll be worth 10 million or 15 million or whatever it is, right? And so the hint of truth is sure, cash value is better than nothing. Sure, a death benefit's better than nothing. But the big lie is you're not looking at the alternative. And every time I do the math, like in Jonathan's videos, if you were investing that money, you'd be dramatically far ahead. And so the basic, tried and true advice is buy the term life insurance you need, invest the difference. And the insurance salesman will make the comparison to not investing. They say buy term. They're saying, oh, you want to buy term insurance and flush hundreds of dollars down the toilet every month? And I'm saying, no, I want to use that money instead of giving it to you to invest. That way I'll strictly be better off no matter when I die. If I die now, I get the term life insurance plus all of my investments. If I die later and the term insurance has expired, my investments have grown so much faster than what's inside of a life insurance policy. I'm so far ahead that even with no death benefit, I'll be better off. My family will be better off. And the numbers are dramatic. I'm talking you'll have 80% less money by doing this through an insurance. And it's impossible to give an exact number because every single insurance policy is different. But the insurance policies I look at, the ones that you hear on Jonathan's call, over time, you have 80% less money by investing through an insurance company rather than investing on your own in something like an index fund. And so, I give this commenter an F. I don't know if
you're grading the comments.
Yeah, I know I don't always, but sometimes I do. I just think it's this scam, misinformation, lie being pushed by insurance salesmen trying to scare you into buying insurance when that's not what most people, almost everybody, should be doing. So, bad job, insurance salesman. Sorry.
Bad job. Okay. Look at us. Made it to the end of another episode.
And then another hour longish episode. That's a long one.
I blame Mike.
You're welcome, you long commuters.
Okay, give us the rules.
That's right. Because you don't want to go broke. You want to be rich. And how do you do that? By following the 2 rules. And the 2 rules are what counts. You don't need to worry about the nuanced ticker tape parade or the nuanced slide whistle.
There you go.
I don't know if this mic picks up whistling. But yeah, follow 2 rules. Rule number 1, live below your means. Rule number 2, invest early and often. That's how you get rich. That's how you do it. See you next week.
The Personal Finance Club show is produced by Jeremy Schneider and Jen Mundia. Music by Esabalu and Homie. Send your questions to podcast@personalfinanceclub.com. The Personal Finance Club show is co-hosted by Jeremy Schneider, who is a co-owner of Nectarine, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The views expressed on this show are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nectarine. Please refer to hellonectarine.com for all relevant disclosures. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as personalized investment advice or a solicitation to buy or sell any security. Listeners should consult their own financial, legal, or tax professionals for advice specific to their situation.